Chris and Dr. Ray coming at you again. We're going to talk about what are the needs now. What do we want to see in a shoe that we're going to use both in an athletic environment, strength training environment, or that could be used for everyday use. And so we have shoes for a reason, so we don't get cuts and burns and transfer disease, right? So that's the fundamental. We want to protect the foot, but we're not engineering. We have the perfect engineered system for operating our body, so we want to use it and allow it to function, okay? So what does that mean in the design? Well, we want a very soft and pliable sole, okay? We want to be able, you should be able to roll your shoe up, basically. What's that's going to allow? That's going to allow us to be able to use everything independently, to have it move. There is also a performance piece of this that we haven't touched, and that's around really proprioception, awareness, and having, it brings out that immediately. So a lot of stuff we've talked about as far as performance enhancements is going to come with the time. Is developing strength. It doesn't happen overnight. You don't walk into a gym and squat 500 pounds, okay? You've got to build to that. But you're going to get an immediate impact from that. So one, we need to have a flexible sole. We talked about a toe box, okay? You're going to want to have a wide toe box, and particularly in strength training, a wider than normal that's going to allow proper splay. Refer to our video on shoe sizing so you can get the appropriately sized shoe for your foot, and hopefully at your foot as it changes and morphs back to a more natural state. Now lifting brings about some other things. So a number of kind of shoes that are minimalist shoes may allow the foot to kind of spill out the side if you're grabbing or rooting into the ground, okay? So one, you wanna make sure that you've got support, like here, this stitching that comes across this outer toe, and you can't see it, but there's a direction that leather, cowhide only stretches in one direction. You want to make sure that that's done the right direction so that it doesn't stretch this way. It's only stretching this way. So those are really key. Obviously, we don't want to have toe spring, which we still see in a number of advertised minimalist shoes. Okay, we don't want to have a heel raise in there as well. So those are some critical components. What are some other things that you would add, Dr. Ray?
Lightweight, at least for the running community, might not be as important in the gym, but lightweight. They've done some studies that show that the heavier the shoe, you're actually using more oxygen. Obviously, you don't want to do that if you're in a race. So flexible, widest at the tips of the toes, lightweight, no arch supporting mechanisms.
None. Yep.
That's a very important feature. The footwear community is very confusing to the consumer because we've got all these different categories, and within those categories, the companies can kind of actually decide where they're going to position their shoe. So they can have a minimal shoe, they'll call it a minimal shoe, but it might have a heel, it might have a lot of extra cushioning in it, but lightweight, flexible, no arch supporting mechanisms, no heel, and no rigid toe spring. Now I mentioned rigid toe spring because there are some shoes out there that they're flexible enough that if they look like this on the shoe wall, but then when you put your foot into it, the toe box can come flat. That's fine. But most of them are not. Most of them are rigid, which means your toes are stuck in the air. Now the downside of that is the ends of your toe bones are some very critical locations for the lower leg muscles will actually become tendons that attach on the last toe bone. So if we're chronically elevated in the heel, we shorten our calf muscles. That's well known. If we chronically lift our toes above the support surface, we also shorten the front side of our calf. So if the back of our leg is short and the front of our leg is short, the same muscles that Chris and I want to teach you how to get strong are long and weak. So we got to get the heel down, get the toes down, toes spread out, and get things moving.
Yeah, a good one to refer to. We've got some information on maintaining the impacts of muscle length tension relationships. And so the Kabuki Education has some great resources on that and understanding there's an optimal range. If we're stretched or pulled back too much, contracted too much, those are ranges that the muscle is not going to operate as well in. So just some base stuff to refer back to some Kabuki Education. Absolutely, yeah. The other thing, it kind of sounds silly, but like it's not. We've talked about fashion and some people not wanting to wear those shoes. So I think it is important that we have a look that is, appropriate enough that you feel comfortable wearing it around, and it doesn't have a look that, your partner or your coworkers or anyone is going to laugh at or that you're going to feel embarrassed maybe about. So, and actually we're laughing because it's a side conversation that we've had around the barefoot shoe market, is a lot of them are set in marketing to specific consumer bases that the aesthetics don't fit the mass population. So, so those are some things. So wanted to go with more of a casual look here that you feel comfortable wearing outside of the gym.